Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Web3 Lounge for our next session. We're super excited. We have such a great crowd. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping announcements. Once again, want to thank our sponsors, Midnight Oil, Passage Labs, Ethos, Spatial, Solana Foundation, Gen City Labs, and NICAP 3D. And I know I've probably said this ad nauseum today, but if you haven't heard the message, I'll repeat it one more time. Our friends at NICAP 3D have their camera cage here today for free. You can walk in, just takes a couple of minutes, and digitize yourself for the metaverse. You'll get a free 3D image of yourself that you can use for the metaverse. So it'd be really cool. And if you haven't tried it, stop in, get it done before they leave. They're only here today. So please take advantage of that. Also, a couple of QR codes you can scan. One is for a free NFT from the D2 team. It'll give you access to our events next year and give you some special discounts. So please make sure you scan that one. And we also have our LinkedIn page where we're posting a ton of content around Web3 for business. So please follow us on LinkedIn. We're really building a fabulous audience of brands and Fortune 1000 companies looking to learn and make waves in the Web3 space. And on to our panel today. So one of the interesting things that's come up in the Web3 world is around the blending of digital and physical imagery and products. And our panel today is going to talk about that whole landscape, primarily about how you delight customers with what you're doing from a brand standpoint. So with that, I'll turn it over to Alicia Esposito, who's our panel moderator today, and I'll let her introduce herself and I'll let the panelists introduce themselves. So if you would please give me a round of applause to welcome them.
Awesome. Thanks everyone so much for being here. This is my first advertising week, honestly, and I'm so excited to be geeking out with all of you. It's so much fun stuff happening. I'm Alicia Esposito. I'm the VP of Content for Retail Touchpoints. We are a website and newsletter for retail executives, brand executives, even tech executives. And we're focused on just this topic, all of the customer-facing aspects of retail strategy, omni-channel strategy, and I'm thrilled to have a panel of folks that are doing a lot of incredible work in this space and are embracing all of the new and exciting opportunities within the Web3 realm. So with that, I think just do quick introductions down the line. Just share your name, a little bit about what you do in the day-to-day, and how it all connects to what we're talking about, the customer experience.
Hi, I'm Bill Rosenthal. I'm the president of Midnight Oil. I hope you're enjoying the space. We were asked to make a Barbie-like themed beach venue, so I hope you're enjoying that and relaxing to the vibe. We work with most of the entertainment studios and streamers, helping to drive consumers into theaters or onto streaming platforms to enjoy their content. And we work across digital and printed materials, anywhere from concepting all the way out to production.
Hey everybody, my name is Devin Nagy. I'm the Director of Emerging Technology for Diageo North America. If you don't know Diageo, we are a global leader in the spirits industry. So we have a portfolio of pretty iconic brands, ranging from Johnny Walker, Tanqueray, Casamigos, Bulleit Bourbon. My role there is to look after, how we get our brands into culture and how we get them out into the world using new technology. So that means spending a lot of time in Web3, looking at AI, enhanced reality, and the IoT space. So it's been an interesting 2 years with the pace of technology as it's been evolving around us, but it's lots of fun.
Perfect. Thanks. I'm Matias Marquez, the CEO of Ethos. We're a platform that helps brands identify and reward their best customers with digital assets. And I'd say we have two big beliefs. One, this technology has to get really, really simple for it to be helpful and for it to get adopted. And the second thing is, I think we have a responsibility to help brands drive real benefits and really delight their customers with these things. I think that's really the purpose of technology at the end of the day, is to delight people and make their lives better. And I think that's a big opportunity for this space.
Devin, I feel like you guys should have done some island cocktails for this whole booth theme.
We'll work on that.
Next year. But as you all can tell from the title of this session, this is all about the blending of physical and digital. And if you follow media, if you're in the retail landscape, you know that a common phrase that is thrown around, especially now, is phygital. Some people love it, think it's an appropriate way to distill the new brand experience. Others shudder and just get the icks thinking about it. So, question for you all, putting you on the spot. How do you feel about phygital as a concept, as a word appropriate, or do you think it's just another buzzword that doesn't quite get to the heart of what is really happening?
Well, I'm one of the naysayers. I'm not a big fan of nomenclature like, phygital and omni-channel and whatever other kind of language you want to put around it, because I think that for most consumers it's confusing and they don't understand it, and none of us want to feel unintelligent. And so when nomenclature is used and language is used that the common person doesn't think about, I don't think it does a lot to build and garner trust with the target that you're going after.
I would say I'm indifferent. Probably okay with it. No offense, but yeah, I let other things stress me out in my life. I'm a parent of young kids, so I think that like the last few years, if you think about how consumer expectations with respect to technology has changed, I mean, the world has evolved quite a bit. Like QR codes are table stakes these days, right? And consumers expect us to seamlessly integrate digital into all the experiences we build out there in the world. So, when it comes to our brand portfolio and how we activate, I think we try to focus on building engaging, memorable experiences for consumers that kind of weave in technology, whether it's Web3, AI, or something else. Because if we're not doing that, it's going to fall flat.
Yeah, I think that's really well put. I like the idea of phygital, obviously, because I like the idea that when I receive a product, I can interact with it physically, and I can also get digital benefits. Like at the end of the day, if I get a bottle of Johnny Walker, I'm gonna enjoy it physically, but I'd also like to look at history of the brand, and I want to know maybe this bottle was built coming from a specific factory and those types of things. So I think there's a really big opportunity to delight customers by giving them physical experiences and digital experiences and putting them together. The actual word, I think I'm with Bill. Like I think this whole industry, I think we've all committed this crime where we get too in love with the technology and too in love with the words, and we get away from thinking about how do we make people happy and solve it. So personally, I'd love the idea of all this nomenclature to go away, and for me just to expect a digital benefit from my Johnny Walker bottle or my Mattel toy or those types of things.
Right. And it all ladders back to what the customer needs and expects. And I guess, Devin, I want to go to you first for this next question, because you are looking at this through the brand lens, and you have a very rich portfolio of brands that have very rich histories. And we had a great conversation before the start of this discussion around how the consumer experience with your brands have evolved, especially over the last few years. Yep. So I'd love for you to kind of distill that, and what key themes or trends you've realized, especially because we are in this moment of evolution where, having a cocktail is very much, you go to the bar down the street, or you go to the new hot spot in Soho, you have this great cocktail experience, then you go buy the product, then you're home. So unpack that evolution for us.
Yeah, I think, and it's dangerous in the world of emerging tech to chase the shiny object, right? So we try not to do that. And inside of Diageo, obviously every brand manages its own P&L and has its own team. So when I go around the building and I'm talking about Web3 or AI or IoT, we try to start with a business goal, right? How can we leverage this to engage consumers or accomplish something that the brand wants to accomplish? So just to give you an example, on the Johnny Walker brand team, we built an experiential footprint called the Johnny Walker Flavor Lab, which was basically inspired by the Johnny Walker brand home in Scotland, which is called Princes Street. It's fantastic. If you guys are in Scotland, you should visit. It's great. But there's an experience there that basically takes you through whiskey. It's called What's Your Whiskey, and it uses technology to really recommend Scotch whiskey that you might like based on your taste preferences. So we built something called the Johnny Walker Flavor Lab that allows you to answer a few questions on a mobile digital experience. And then based on your answers to those questions, you get a tasting token. And that tasting token is one of 4 flavor profiles. It's like smoky, fruity, fresh. And you show that tasting token to a bartender, and they make you a bespoke Johnny Walker highball cocktail, which is really good because it helps the brands obviously get liquid to lips sampling. That's important for them to do to reach thousands of consumers every year. And then it helps demystify Scotch whiskey, right? People may think they know Scotch, but they might not know the layers and the flavors associated with Scotch. So it's really all about using tech to build that memorable, engaging experience that we want to bring to life across the portfolio. And so we've seen some success with that. We're going to take that from, the Johnny Walker brand team to other brands in our portfolio like Smirnoff. They activate a lot around the NFL at different NFL stadiums. So we're going to start to roll that out to other brands.
That's really cool. So it seems like this emerging tech is almost a vehicle for the brand storytelling, but there's also this layer of personalization where the person can actively participate and get the insights and get the output that leads to value for them, which I think is really the key thing around any sort of digital experience.
Yeah, totally. I think, with consumers these days, again, as I mentioned, I think their expectations have evolved. They want that seamless integration. They want it personalized. In a lot of cases, they're willing to give us their data in return for something that's valuable, right? So if you're giving us your email address, you want something in return for that. And I think Web3 kind of does that nicely in the way the paradigm is set up within Web3. So we try to follow that, but most importantly, like you said, we're not trying to confuse our consumers with any of the jargon associated with Web3.
They don't care about that. They just care about what they're ultimately going to get. So Matias, anything to add there, like around that physical digital convergence and the opportunity, I guess, based on what the customer is telling us they want at this point?
Thank you. I think I'd say a couple of things. I'd say one, I think everybody would get behind this. When you interact with a consumer brand, there are physical benefits you can get, there's monetary benefits you can get from them, and there's non-monetary benefits you can get from them, right? Like there's a wide range of benefits a brand can provide a customer, which include things like discounts and promo codes and access to events and these types of things. But it also includes digital experiences, and I think that's the big evolution here. I think that as time passes and as more people who grew up in like digital first environments come to become your customers, they're going to expect digital rewards and digital benefits. And I say that in a way to try to not make it sound scary. Like we can provide people digital rewards that don't feel scary and are just like videos or experiences online and these types of things. I think that, you'd been so many good examples of like the technology driving benefits. And I think that's one of the big things that we spend every day thinking about is how can we provide these benefits? We have a funny saying in our office and it goes like this. Netflix is on AWS, but nobody watches Netflix because they're on AWS, right? So I think the more examples we see of great companies like Diageo and Mattel and others doing these great activations, I think the more people will realize that, hey, my customer's changing. Hey, they want digital rewards and digital benefits and digital engagements as part of their interactions with me as a brand. And I think this technology can be a vehicle to provide that.
So Bill, I do want to go to you because your organization has done some incredible work, a lot of out of home, a lot of billboards, some even incorporating some of this great new technology. What are you seeing from consumers, but also hearing from your clients as well? Because like the big takeaway for us in all of our work is like, sure, digital is great. It has that layer of personalization, customization, context, and it creates that connectivity. But there's something about that tactile, like IRL experience, right, that everyone talks about. So can you break that down for us?
Yeah, I think it's an all of the above. I think that consumers now, you're looking for them in a lot of different places. They're online, they are in person. COVID drove us all into our homes, and I think we all probably adopted digital platforms and digital experiences in a different way because that's what we had. Now the world's kind of opened back up, and I think that people are yearning for that real life experience. And so, a lot of what we are doing is kind of using every vehicle possible to ultimately drive what our customers are looking for, our clients are looking for. And I loved your line, liquid in lips. So we're like butts in seats, trying to drive consumers into the movie theater or drive them in some cases to their couch to watch the latest streaming. And I think that it is very when we look at the different demographics of folks, I think there is this we keep hearing about the next generation and how they're more and more digital savvy than the last. I have 3 Gen Zers. The amount of information they will give away for value, which is almost nothing, is really quite amazing for a marketer. It doesn't cost much at all. Access is a big thing. And so I think that we're seeing this continual evolution and shift toward just easy points of access. Anywhere, everywhere. The movie, what's it? Everywhere, anywhere, all at once. I think that that's really what the consumer is expecting, and I think it's got to be entertaining, and it's got to have value, and it's got to, surprise and delight you.
And sometimes it's in different worlds, right? So
Everywhere.
So Matias, I do want to go to you because I think this overarching discussion around value for the consumer, brand immersion, fandom is a very big theme at this year's event, which I find to be fascinating how it's all kind of coming full circle. Because one thing I've been hearing a lot about is the opportunity for Web3 and specifically digital goods, NFTs for loyalty and how that can kind of be a connector for the consumer, that idea of ownership and collaboration with the brand. So can you kind of break down like where we're at as far as like NFTs? So I feel like there was like a lot of hype, and then it kind of like the skeptics came out. Like where do the opportunities exist? And like what, if any, ideas kind of have you seen that you think have done a really good job of bringing the brand experience to life and solidifying that engagement and loyalty?
Yeah, there's a lot there, but thank you for the question. So I guess the first thing I'd say is what loyalty is all about is either one, activating a customer who's been a customer but hasn't purchased from you recently, or it's rewarding a customer who continues to come back, right? And I think the old way of doing loyalty was really kind of points-based, pay to play, come grab a coffee, we'll give you some rewards, come again, we'll give you some more rewards, and you'll get another coffee. I think the customers changed. I think the customers now they get delighted by more than just $5 off or a free coffee. They get delighted about learning more about your story. They get delighted about accessing a digital event you're hosting and these types of things. So where the opportunity for Web3 lies is really around augmenting the idea of loyalty to delight your customers and give them more than just free shipping or $5 off or anything like that you would expect from an existing loyalty program. I think an example of this, and someone who's done a really good job, is Starbucks. I think Starbucks has been the kind of pinnacle of a loyalty program historically, and now they've added another layer, which is their Odyssey program, which is in addition to their Stars program. So you go into Starbucks, you get your coffee, you earn points for your next free coffee, but now that they're rewarding you in a different way for different types of behavior. So I think where Web3 ties into loyalty, it's not a replacement. It's a, hey, let's add digital experiences and digital rewards to an existing loyalty program, or let's create a loyalty program, if you don't have one, that comes with yes rewards that are like free coffee and discounts and those types of things, but also digital experiences and digital rewards. And I say that again in not a scary way. Like, you can provide your customers a digital experience as a reward, and that doesn't have to be a metaverse experience. It can literally be a video of your designer explaining how they designed the handbag, which for a lot of people will be interested in hearing that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of merit to that, especially for our portfolio, where we have this broad portfolio of brands that have brand homes that are fantastic to visit. If you go to Scotland and you visit some of the brand homes that we have in our single malts portfolio, or you go to the Johnny Walker brand home at Princess Street, you're going to become like an ambassador for that brand because it's a great experience. So if companies can find a way to build on the existing loyalty platform that they have, and just think about leveraging Web3 technology as an extension or an evolution of loyalty, then I think that's a win for companies like us. But again, if it has to have scale, and it shouldn't lead with something that confuses the consumer from the start.
Yeah. So a deep understanding of where your customer is at, and like whether that jump, I guess, into something like an NFT-based program.
Yeah, and I think like the technology, thankfully, and a lot of the companies innovating in this space has evolved greatly where it can be a seamless consumer experience, where it's happening in the background, much as a lot of the technology that powers the experiences we consume day to day, like what you said about AWS, it's just there and it works.
It's innate, yeah. Sometimes it's a secret enabler.
We don't need to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, and I don't think that consumers really want to or need to understand the technology behind it. I think that that's kind of confusing, and it's more than most people really desire to know.
Yeah.
So the opportunity is to give these great rewards and these great experiences to customers. I think that the challenge and the thing we should not be doing is highlighting the technology. Like, have you met people who are not in this room? Like, my wife will jump off of a web page if it doesn't load within 2 seconds, right? The reason from the last panel, they were talking about how photos are too kind of like too much now, and people want videos, and even following people became a difficult thing to do. So now TikTok just feeds you information. My point is that at the same time, the consumer is becoming less and less interested in how things work, and their attention spans are getting smaller. And if we think we're going to convince them to create a crypto wallet and save seed phrases and understand new words, like we're losing our minds then.
Yeah, and I think that's just because of where the space started and like the technology. I don't want to say it was in its infancy, but like the effort to consumerize this technology by way of NFTs, the way they were introduced a year and a half, 2 years ago, confused a hell of a lot of people.
Everyone's like, where are they monkeys
Right.
everywhere? What's happening?
Right. And we've reached this point of sensationalism now where it's like, it's either working or it's dead. You
Yeah.
look at the Rolling Stone piece that came out a week ago or 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, and it's like there's no nuance to that discussion about the technology, which I think does a disservice to what the tech can do.
Yeah. I've been in retail for 12 years, and retail is historically so terrible at the whole blank is dead narrative. It's like every month something new is dead, and it's very depressing, honestly. But as we talk about the customer experience, it seems like the crux of it is customers don't care, they just want it to work, and they want as few touches to get to that ultimate point.
I think customers
Elimination
care.
of friction.
Right, their expectations have changed.
Yes. Okay. Fair point. So I think this idea of eliminating friction, making that journey to more information, better experiences, etc., as fluid as possible. There are other technologies that enable that, right? Like you mentioned the QR code. Like there's a lot of interesting discussions around like AR. I mean, what are some of like the key touch points, no pun intended, that are really rising to the top for you all, like as exciting opportunities as we talk about this idea of phygital or the convergence of digital and physical?
I mean, I would go back to the panel that was on previously. I think that there's a lot of promise with the world of extended reality, especially as our phones become more powerful to be able to bring that experience to mass scale. And again, like with our portfolio, we want to bring those brand home experiences to people to get them closer to understand what the brand is all about and why it's really cool. So I think that there's a lot of promise there with AR and VR, and there are people out there that would discount that tech and say that it's like not for the mass audience. I think again, like nuance to the discussion, like it's got a lot of ways to go, and I think we'll see a lot more of that in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more evolution to go. I mean, if you remember a couple of years ago, Google Glasses, and people were talking about what that would be, and I never saw anyone wear them except in a demo. I've never seen anyone on the street wearing them. I think it's kind of dead, but I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure how many people wear Facebook's Oculus, except maybe a niche or certain categories. But I think that what the promise is of it, we know it's going to continue to evolve. And that's what I think is really exciting, because we don't know what's next, but we know that there is evolution happening every day.
Yeah, like I would point to the podcast that Zuckerberg just did recently with Lex Friedman. That was like mind blowing. I didn't know like that was available. So I think that to say like that the tech is never going to help big brands like us is not right.
It is funny how they like to write articles about this. Like, I think at one point they said Amazon was dead, right? It's like, I think that kind of binary thinking just doesn't work, especially with nascent technologies. Apple's coming out with their Vision Pro. I wouldn't bet against Apple on that. Like, I don't know if I'm buying a Vision Pro today, but I'm probably buying one eventually. If I was joking with a friend, if I could wear that as a snowboarding goggle and I could like see the route, I'd buy one, right? So I think it's just the function formula is just a function of benefit. You give me enough benefits and you remove enough friction, I'm your customer. I'm gonna participate.
Yeah. So I guess there are so many different opportunities, so many different new and emerging technologies, and a lot of it just comes down to testing it, right? Taking the leap. So how could, or should rather, the folks that are standing in this space right now be thinking about this, especially as they consider, their brand goals, but also I guess the stakeholder implications, right? Like you have to sell this to, your team, leadership, et cetera. So I mean, any thoughts, recommendations of how they can go through this process as successfully as possible?
Yeah, I mean, I would just go back to starting with the business goal, right? That's how I sell it into our brand teams at Diageo. Speak their language, and that helps you gain credibility from the start of the discussion with like respect to anything emerging tech. So I think even in this world of ever-changing technology with generative AI now, it's the same. You got to start with how it might change their approach to creativity or productivity, and then think about the business challenge that it might potentially help them solve. That's where to start, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd maybe add, considering the macro environment too, this technology does give you the ability to do more with less, right? So if you're looking to delight and excite your customers, yes, you can give them discounts, you can give them, things that are going to cost you money, or you could let them learn more about your products. You can engage with them in a new way that excites them. And I think that's a kind of very on point with the macro environment we're seeing. And the other thing I'd say is that I think so many brands are focused on finding that new customer. So it's like, let's pay Facebook, let's pay Instagram ads to get that net new customer. And they'll pay $20, $30, $40, $50, $100. But what about delighting your existing customer who hasn't come back in a couple months, right? I think if you can give them a non-monetary reward or something that could excite them about your brand, that's a lower cost of customer acquisition because you're just activating an existing customer. Like, I am a Johnny Walker customer and I buy, but I would buy again if I got to learn more about, like, you know what I mean? Like the more you can, the more we'll go to your office and but my point is, like, there's just so much rich history with that brand that you could continuously update me and I continue to learn, right?
Well, I think we all know, and the hardest dollar to get from a customer is that first dollar, right? So to then be short-sighted, not to then continue to speak to and encourage and generate more business from that customer that you've tried, over time to go get them to spend that first dollar. I think it's really imperative to remember your existing customers versus always the chase for somebody new. And I think, as we were talking about where does this all fit in, I think for marketers, it's not going to be 100% of their marketing budget for most marketers. It's going to be a piece of the entire equation. And, people have been talking about the commercial being dead. Every year the commercial is being dead. Television is dead. Everything is dead, right? But it's not. And I think that it's part of an all of the above. It's probably, a percentage of it, varying for different companies and for different brands. But I think it's part of it. And I think for brands that embrace it and test it and try it, there's a lot of benefit to be had. And for those who don't, there's a whole consumer that they may never touch because you may not be where they are.
Shakespeare on the last panel, and it was his name, he called them layers, and I think that's absolutely right. I don't think one thing replaces any of these things. I think meeting your customer where they are means that they interact in different places, physically and digitally, and just adding this as one layer, I think, is a really good idea and definitely worth trying.
Yeah. Just finding new ways to tell the story in an exciting way. And there are a lot of brands that are doing some really interesting things, of course. You guys are doing some great work. Coach is another brand, if you guys haven't seen a lot of the work that they're doing, blending, Web3, but also, AR, all those other technologies. And it's just like new, very Gen Z centric, but still like effortlessly Coach. And it just like makes sense. So I think, there are a few different case studies out there that folks can check out. But we have a few minutes left if we want to open it for questions. I don't know if anyone has any.
Yeah. Who's got questions, comments? Don't make me stand up here and dance.
Is that it?
So if you had to come up with a new word for phygital, because I'm in the camp of think it's like sounds awful coming out of my mouth, and, what would be your next best suggestion? Put you on the spot.
I would say all-inclusive. I think that people kind of can get that. It's normal language that people know what it means.
We'll go with that answer because I can't think of anything better.
Yeah, maybe just learn more, or hopefully it just becomes the expectation from a customer that when I buy a pair of socks or I buy a bottle of whiskey or I buy a pair of sunglasses, I can interact with it more than just holding it in my hands, and I can just get more out of it just by scanning the QR code that's on the back of it.
Other questions, comments?
Are any of you thinking about how to use NFC chips to connect a physical object to a digital twin and how those experiences can enhance a brand?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's very applicable to what we do. I mean, obviously we sell a physical product, And there's a lot of really interesting technology that's out there, that's nanotechnology that we can embed in our labels to extend the experience. We've done a little bit of experimentation with some brands around like our global footprint with that, but just as it relates to Web3, I think there's a lot to think about there. To date, we have really focused on extending the experience for some of our luxury releases through Web3, where we sold Johnny Walker Blue bottle called Ghost and Rare Port Dundas, which is an annual release. It comes from distilleries that are like no longer in operation, so it's a really special blend of liquid. And we sold that on a platform called Block Bar, and it got you access to a bunch of other things you wouldn't normally get access to. But you could see NFCs providing a lot of value to do things like that for physical products like ours. So we are looking at that.
You know that feature in your iPhone when you get a text message and it like autofills, like that we all love that so much, right? I think NFC could be that to the QR code. I think it is okay to scan a QR code. It would be nicer if I didn't have to actually open the camera and just hover over it. So I think in this mission of just making things easier and easier and easier, I think this is another step forward.
Other questions?
I'll just say I'm amazed that QR codes are still so prolific. I mean, I remember them years ago when we were like amazed, and then they kind of went away, and now they're kind of coming back. I think because people understand them, and I think that we've talked a lot about making the consumer experience easy, and I think that if you make it easy, they're more likely to do it. It doesn't necessarily have to be the most cutting edge technology, but it has to be approachable technology. So.
Yeah. Very few steps to get to where you need to go. And I think if there's
That's few.
great content or a great story or great opportunity for further engagement, that's really where the money is, so to speak.
Other questions, comments?
I think we're at time. Awesome. Well, thanks again so much to the panel. Really great insights. Appreciate you being so candid.
Thank you.
Thank you.